Did we learn anything this weekend? What's going on in the NFL?
Whole lot of stuff.
All that coming up. Let's talk football. Okay, welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Football, episode 21. I want to say, yeah. What the hell happened this weekend?
Well, all the Cowboys hype died. And also, too, we learned that the Saints have a defense that can win them a Super Bowl. A defense that can come in the clutch.
Where did that Kansas City secondary come from?
That Kansas City defense was just stout. I mean, they answered the call because there's been a lot of doubts about their defense during this whole season with basically Patrick Mahomes and that powerful Chiefs offense carrying them all year. But the defense answered the call, holding Indianapolis to only 13 points. An Indianapolis team that has been explosive ever since their 1-5 start. They just, stifling performance by the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, not just that, but also you go to the other AFC game. I mean, Brady's looked 41 all season long, and all of a sudden, playoff time comes around, and it's vintage Brady.
That's just been Tom Brady for the past few years. I mean, a home game, playoffs at home in Foxborough, it's like we're seeing the Brady of old, and it's just for the longest the Chargers offense where they struggled throughout the whole game offensively. They wasn't able to get anything done on the run. Phillip Rivers, he had a hard time getting the ball off. There was no blocking. Coach Brian Flores, who is the defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, who's possibly about to be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, dialed up one of the best defensive game plans going against a tough quarterback like Phillip Rivers. And that was mainly the X factor in the Patriots beating the Chargers this past weekend.
Yeah. Chargers, man.
Future's bright for them. I mean, Phillip Rivers, he's about to go into his 15th season next season. I mean, that's if he does return. I mean, future's bright for those guys. And you still got Melvin Ingram on the defensive line. You still got Joey Bosa. On offense, you still got Keenan Allen. You still got Melvin Gordon. Phillip Rivers most likely is going to come back for another season. I mean, the Chargers, it's only up from here.
So what I want to know is why the hell didn't the Chargers defense adjust? They started out with that 7 DB nonsense. Wasn't working from the get-go. But they didn't make any adjustments. So it's the playoffs, man. You should at least sit there and say, okay, this isn't working. Let's try something different.
I mean, especially when you're going against a New England offense that likes to spread out a whole lot. I mean, when you got guys like Julian Edelman out there, also with James White, Tom Brady at quarterback. I mean, usually at home in the playoffs, that's where you really start seeing them really spread their offense out.
And it's like they couldn't do nothing. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. They couldn't fart. I don't know.
And also James White, he tied a playoff record for most receptions in a playoff game with 15 catches for 97 yards. And that is basically his sole purpose, being a receiver out the backfield.
Yeah.
And also, Sony Michel had a big game running for over 125 yards. He had like 24 carries, 129 yards, and 3 touchdowns, I believe.
Is he like James White? Really? That's your leading receiver? The damn running back?
That's what it was looking like.
I mean, come on, Los Angeles. What the hell?
The Chargers defense just had a hard time, and I was watching the game. I was in New Orleans this past weekend watching the game, and I was just watching how Tom Brady and the Pats was just destroying that defense. Like, Tom Brady, he was just moving the ball with ease, and it looked like poetry in motion with that Patriots offense. And it just goes to show, in clutch times and in the bright lights, Tom Brady may be 41, but he still got it, and them Chiefs better watch out in Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can think about when it comes with the Colts and the Chargers is they were on the road in sub-freezing degrees, and the history of warm/dome teams, warm weather/dome teams is not that great.
Why you think it was so important for the Saints to have home field advantage in these playoffs?
I know, exactly. But, their top competition was the Rams, who play in Southern California. So,
True.
I guess technically mid-California. I just can't get over it. But how poorly the two teams played, I just can't get over that.
I mean, the wild card. I mean, they played masterful. I mean, on both sides of the ball. I mean, you look at Indianapolis only holding a tough Texans offense. Only 7 points the whole game. You look at the Chargers, who shut down Lamar Jackson, who was on fire all season. One of the most dangerous players going into these playoffs. And it just seemed that they just took a turn for the worse in the divisional round. Granted, they went to Colts went to Arrowhead, faced the Chiefs, led by Patrick Mahomes, who's an MVP candidate. Granted, the Chargers went to Foxborough, which is probably the hardest place to play in the playoffs in the AFC. But still, considering what these two teams have executed all year, considering what these teams have brought to the table, it just seems that everything they brought to the table this season, they wasn't able to execute it in their respective games.
Yeah. The Cowboys at the Rams, when the Cowboys fell behind the way they did, I knew it was over. They're not a rallying team.
I think that the Rams have added another dimension to their offense, which is C.J. Anderson. C.J. Anderson torched a very tough Dallas Cowboys defense, who has always been good at stopping the run, who has been good at pretty much shutting down any offense.
Yeah, they had two backs go over 100 yards.
Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson. And that's considering the fact that Todd Gurley wasn't 100%. First things first, he was battling injury. He missed the final 2 games of the season because of injury. So they signed C.J. Anderson to provide stability, because during the whole season, they didn't have any stability behind Todd Gurley. So who better to add stability behind Todd Gurley than have C.J. Anderson, who's a former Super Bowl running back from the Denver Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it kind of gives me some reason to worry when they go against the Saints, because now the Saints, not only is Jared Goff you got to worry about, not only is Todd Gurley you have to worry about, not only is Robert Woods or Brandon Cooks, but now you got to worry about C.J. Anderson, who has proved that he can still run the ball. He proved that he still got it, and he's in his early 30s.
Yeah. All three teams, and those essentially were blowouts, kind of scored late to make the games a lot closer than they actually were. I heard on Ian Fitzsimmons last night, they were talking about how that Rams game was not an 8-point game.
It wasn't. Statistically, the Rams dominated, rushing for almost 300 yards on the ground. You look at between Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson, they just torched that Cowboys front seven. And what I've noticed is it's taking a lot of pressure off of Jared Goff. And the main reason why Jared Goff struggling towards the latter end of the season is because of their lack of stability in the run game due to the injury of Todd Gurley. See, when you run the ball, because Jared Goff late in the season, and here's why the Rams, their chances were kind of shaky going against the Cowboys, due to the simple fact that Jared Goff towards the end of the season struggled, throwing for 16 touchdowns, but he's also committed 12 turnovers. Mm-hmm. When you look at the Cowboys, they're one of the hottest teams going to the playoffs, including a big win in the wild card round over the Seattle Seahawks. They're led by Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, who has put up big numbers this season for the Cowboys, which was a result of why they won their last, 7 out of 8 games towards the end of the regular season. And so I had, I gave the Cowboys reasonable benefit of a doubt against this Rams team, considering the two sides. But after seeing what C.J. Anderson did, it just adds another dimension to this deadly Rams offense, to where it can be like, no Todd Gurley, no problem, we got C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, I do have to. Having Anderson does give them a second back, and that has been one of the things that I've said all season long, is that they had nobody behind Gurley, and it showed you a lot. When you stop Todd Gurley and just put it all on Jared Goff, they typically did not perform as well.
Well, with C.J. Anderson, he came into the playoffs with a chip on his shoulder due to the simple fact that, he was released by the Broncos. Then he was taken by Carolina. They waived him. He was taken by Oakland. They waived him. So he wanted to prove why he still belonged in this league. And I think he showed everybody, every single team, of why he still belongs and how he still got it. And so it gives me some reasonable doubt of maybe the Saints' chances, despite the fact that they are going to be in the dome. I mean, you got to give this Rams offense credit.
So let's talk about the Saints game. At first, it looked like the Philadelphia Eagles might actually potentially come in and run the table on New Orleans.
I feel that the turning point for the Saints was controlling the tempo. I mean, you're looking at a Saints team that had, during the regular season, they had no problem putting 40, 50 points on the board. They love running up the score. I mean, they had the offense for it. But knowing the type of defense that Philadelphia was coming in with, knowing the type of confidence that the young secondary led by Malcolm Jenkins came in with, knowing the type of confidence this front seven led by Fletcher Cox, Nigel Bradham, Chris Long came in with, Sean Payton knew this was going to be a much different Philadelphia Eagles team. They knew that this Eagles team was coming in with a chip on the shoulder behind Nick Foles. And so I felt what Sean Payton focused on was controlling the tempo of the game. It seemed that the Saints had a lot of postseason jitters in the beginning of the game, but once they calmed down, they started controlling the tempo. I mean, if you saw the third quarter, they wasted 11 minutes on the clock, which resulted in a touchdown drive.
18 plays.
For over 11 minutes. And I felt that was a turning point. And in first quarter, Eagles dominated. They came out hot. First play of the game. They picked off Drew Brees. Nick Foles, 2 touchdown drives, 2 straight touchdown drives. But I feel the turning point of the game would start with spearhead the Saints' comeback was Marshawn Lattimore's pick. And what sealed the deal was Marshawn Lattimore's pick.
Well, yeah, I think one of the things that, yes, I do believe that was a momentum swinging play for sure. Probably ended up saving a touchdown on that drive. Once again, Sean Payton just being Sean Payton and going for the fourth down, direct snap to Taysom Hill inside. I was like at their own 30.
Well, I mean, I feel at that point, like during that part of the game, I felt that the Eagles had full control of the Saints mentally because, I mean, when it's that early in the game and you had to resort going for it on 4th down twice, risking losing the ball, I mean, and still having to go for it, I mean, that's how I knew the Eagles had the Saints beaten mentally at that point. But I felt that the Saints, they calmed down, they got their nerves under control, and they played their brand of football, scoring 20 unanswered points to win the game. And the defense really stepped up. I mean, they held Philadelphia to only 250 yards of total offense, 97 yards for the whole second half, for like the last 3 quarters. I think it was 97 total yards for the last 3 quarters.
Yeah, I mean, they completely shut them out after almost like
after the first quarter.
After the first quarter, really. Yeah, and Philadelphia did have some opportunities that they let slip away, like that guy who dropped the pick. The fumble that Philadelphia had
subsequently recovered.
Recovered. They didn't hold on to the fumble. So 2 turnovers there, and I want to say both of those were in Saints territory.
And that final drop by Alshon Jeffrey that landed in the hands of Marshawn Lattimore, that was just a total killer right there. A total killer. But the Saints, what we learned about the Saints team, this defense is clutch. The defense has gained a clutch factor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's surprising to sit here and talk about the Saints defense and how clutch they are, considering the past history they have had in this Sean Payton era.
They used to be historically bad. I'm talking about they broke records for yards given up, for points given up. Like, I'm talking about historically bad numbers. Like, I don't even want to go back and look on those numbers because they're just so horrifying.
The funny thing is even the Super Bowl team in 2009 had okay defense. Their key thing was turning the ball over. They had,
I mean, that was their. I mean, they had Greg Williams, and Greg Williams, I mean, he's a guy that has a nose for the ball. Like, he gives each and every one of his players, that instinct to get the ball every single time.
I thought that was like a little bonus pay incentive.
I mean, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want that bonus pay? I know what you're talking about.
I thought he gave his players jobs on Craigslist.
Oh wow. Or do you mean contract hits on the dark web.
Mm. Yeah.
Pound the gate. Anyways, but back to what we're saying about this defense.
They got a defense. And oddly enough, like the only injury they came out with was to Sheldon Rankins, who is confirmedly torn his Achilles, which you don't want to see anybody get hurt like that. But in the same time, it's like kind of okay.
It probably didn't. It really didn't affect the Saints. It really didn't affect the Saints defense because they were still effective at stopping the run. They were still effective at trying to get pressure on Nick Foles. I mean, they didn't sack Nick Foles in the game. But they're able to affect some of his throws.
I hate to say the good news about that, but what else am I going to say? It's like the one injury they sustained during that game just happened to be at their deepest position. So they're looking they're in pretty darn good shape going into this game against the Rams.
Now, one thing the Saints defense is going to have to do, they got to get pressure on Jared Goff. Because Jared Goff, he's the type of guy, he's tall, he's big, he has a big arm. This is a guy that can stand in the pocket and make throws. He could take the hits and make the throws like Nick Foles did. But they got to be able to stop the run, which is huge because you don't have to just worry about Todd Gurley. You have to worry about C.J. Anderson as well, who's been well at running the ball. And the Rams' offensive line, if I were to give MVP to anybody in divisional playoff weekend, it will be the LA Rams offensive line. They give my MVP award. The way they run blocked against a tough Dallas defense who has thrived at stopping the run all season long.
Yeah.
And if this offensive line brings the same performance, they bring the same potency and same tenacity and same aggression, then they can go into the dome and beat the Saints. I'm not going to be biased here. I'm a Saints fan and everything, but I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to speak basically off facts because I'm a realist. If the Rams put up the same performance against the Saints like they did against the Cowboys, they're going to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that.
So the Saints front, it's going to take all hands on deck with the Saints defense.
Which, one of the things that I said going into this round was while I recognize the Dallas Cowboys having a better defense, and I recognize that the Rams defense has been beyond suspect this year.
They're probably the worst team against the run, giving up 5 yards a carry going against the Cowboys.
Yeah, but it's that, the Rams defense does have a knack for making big time plays at the right time.
And not only that, they also have gotten Aqib Talib back in the lineup. Now, I remind you, the last time the Saints and the Rams met each other, Aqib Talib was hurt. He didn't play in the game.
Well, you can't tell me that they're not going to target Peters.
Oh, they are going to target Peters. Without Aqib Talib, because see, Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib, that's like yin and yang. Yang cannot perform without Yin. Yin can't perform without Yang. That's the right analogy, right? Am I being right? That's Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters. Mm-hmm. If Aqib Talib is not out there, I feel that with Aqib Talib out there, that gives Marcus Peters confidence, and it kind of gives him that extra edge to go out there and play well because, he learns from Aqib Talib. He's out there playing with a guy who he looks at as probably his mentor. And remember last time Michael Thomas was on Marcus Peters, and they targeted Marcus Peters almost every single time in the last game, which is why the Saints were able to hang up 45 points on them. Mm-hmm. But I feel that with Aqib Talib out there in this game, I feel it's going to give Marcus Peters a little bit extra edge in his performance.
So I guess one of the things to sit here and ask is, okay, what do they do about can't guard Mike?
Well, I'm going to say there's no secret that the Eagles have a better secondary than the Rams. The Eagles secondary was masterful after their 3-5, after their 3-6 start. As Jim Schwartz have given them a lot of confidence. A young secondary, but they also had some veteran leadership, having guys like Malcolm Jenkins and Jalen Mills out there.
You say they're saying, okay, 12 catches,
171 yards and a touchdown.
And so, plus like some, I want to say at least 3 catches on key third downs.
That's also another aspect where the Saints dominated, where they struggled early in the game, but in the second half, I mean, third down after third down. And what you also learn about the Saints, that Saints offense is going to keep turning no matter the penalties. The drive where they did take the lead, they were attacked by penalties. They had about 3 or 4 penalties on the same drive. 2 of them were on Andrews Pete, and they still scored touchdown on the drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, it's like that's another thing. Saints have to limit the penalties they have this time around.
I mean, they're going against a tough defensive line. Though they haven't really lived up to expectations this season, you're going against Ndamukong Suh. You're going against Dante Fowler and Aaron Donald. Of course, Aaron Donald, who, in my opinion, he's a guy that I could put in MVP conversations.
Agreed. Donald has definitely been arguably the most dominant lineman this year. If it's not Donald, it's going to be Watt.
Oh, it's always those two.
Yeah, those two are the top 2 linemen in this league, without any question. You might be able to put Cam Jordan and Fletcher Cox in that conversation too, but
I mean, Aaron Donald, he's the type of guy he can get in that backfield almost every single play.
It's like. It's like J.J. Watt. It's just a whole different level of good.
Aaron Donald, he's only been in the league for a few years now.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, so Chiefs Patriots. What are we looking at here?
We could be looking at an offensive shootout. I feel this might be an absence of defense again, like it was the first time.
40-42. Yeah.
But I do feel like I feel like this can be the game to where the torch is going to officially be passed from Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes.
You really think Mahomes is going to be that good?
You look at how he's done. This is his first year starting. You look at the numbers he's put up this season, and you look at his production. I feel that as far as in his career, at what he's capable of achieving, I feel that he's ahead of schedule. Way ahead of schedule at that.
It's interesting. They were talking about Patrick Mahomes on the radio last night, and they were asking the question that his time at Texas Tech and how terrible of a line he was behind. The lack of talent that he had at receiver, if that did not help him transition better to the pros.
He didn't have that many weapons at Texas Tech, but and you saw how dangerous he was with the lack of resources he had. And that's ultimately why, Cliff Kingsbury didn't achieve much success as a head coach at Texas Tech. You saw how dangerous he was without weapons and how he was able to utilize them. So just imagine how good he could be with the weapons he got, like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill.
Right. Well, yeah. We've seen that this year. Also, you have to remember he did spend a year sitting behind Alex Smith.
And Alex Smith, he's not a slouch at quarterback, even though he is a check down king. Look at Alex Smith. He's a guy that has evolved over his career since he came out of Utah. Still praying for speed recovery for Alex Smith. Still praying for you, buddy.
Mm-hmm. The leg injury was nasty. So do you, I have to ask where that secondary came from against the Colts, because they hadn't been there all season long. And all of a sudden, against one of the hottest teams, it is.
Look, I think Michael Jordan and Looney Tunes came in from Space Jam and gave him that special water. And had, in the beginning of the game, like, look, we need you. Y'all going against Andrew Luck. Y'all going against T.Y. Hilton and Chester Rogers. Look, here's some special juice. That's my best bet. That's my best guess right there.
Something happened because they were ranked 31st.
Second to last in the league in secondary play.
Just absolutely atrocious. And then all of a sudden, bing, we're gonna blank the Colts. So
it just seemed that the Chiefs have showed that we can play defense as well.
They're going up against the Patriots, who, like I said, somehow managed to pull vintage Brent vintage Brady out of a 41-year-old man.
All I gotta say, if vintage Brady comes to Arrowhead, vintage Brady is going to Atlanta.
I can agree with that. It's just like all logic to me says that the Chiefs secondary is not very good.
It's just
but then there was last week. I mean, you cannot. How do you explain what happened? You can't, unless it was just that cold and the Colts.
I mean, you're out in that. I know you play inside in Lucas Oil Stadium, but still, you have to practice in the conditions of Indianapolis, Indiana. It gets super cold out there in Indianapolis. I've never been out there. All I know is that it's up north, and it gets super cold to where you need an overcoat, you need some fur, you need a tarp, you need some rope, you need some king-size sheets to cover your whole body. But I digress.
Mm-hmm.
John?
Oh, to me, this is a hard one to call. I just see a lot of points being scored, like the first game.
I'm going to honestly go ahead and say that I'm going to go ahead because of what the Chiefs showed against a very tough Colts team, in which I honestly thought Colts can go in there and beat the Chiefs because of how the Colts played throughout the regular season. But in the playoffs, I mean, the main strategy to win, I mean, you know what you did to get there. You know what you had to do to get there, what you had to achieve to get there. Basically, you know what you had to bring to the table. The main strategy in order in being successful in the playoffs is executing what you have been bringing to the table all season long. And it seems that the Chiefs, I mean, their secondary has been horrendous this season, but the playoffs is a different atmosphere, and that's where you can see teams make a full 360 turn. And so you look at the Chiefs, how their secondary played against Indianapolis. Their secondary was on fire. Secondary, they played with a purpose. They played with a chip on their shoulder because they had to silence the doubters. Going against the Patriots, I feel the secondary is going to take some steps back. I mean, vintage playoffs is where we see vintage Brady. Super Bowl is where you see vintage Brady. Brady, he's all about the bright lights. I mean, I know I'm sounding a little cliche here, but I'm just stating facts.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind that, you know, Coach McDaniel, his name is Josh McDaniels, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to spread that off. He's going to spread it out completely. Like, if you thought that offense was spread out against the Chargers, this offense is going to spread the whole field.
Yeah.
And that's something that Coach McDaniels has always been good at with the Patriots. I mean, he loves working with Tom Brady. I mean, that's why he's turned down so many head coaching jobs. But that's none of my business.
Honestly, I just think McDaniels is coaching waiting right now.
But this game, I think it's going to be, you know, a good showdown between Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, a showdown between Julian Edelman, Tyreek Hill, and also a good showdown that I want to see of who can outdo who, Travis Kelce versus Rob Gronkowski.
You know, Gronkowski, injuries have caught up with the man.
And not only that, I mean, there's been speculation about this being his last season. And he, like, you know, he said that he'd rather retire than have another quarterback throw to him. Yeah, I honestly, I mean, look, if I've been playing for Tom Brady for so long, and if I have to get traded, I'm like, if it's not Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, I don't want it. Because if I can't have Tom Brady throw the ball to me anymore, you better get Drew Brees on the phone. You better get Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. Because if it ain't them, I don't want it. No, don't want it. Something else in the NFL that everybody is trying to pull a Sean McVay move. Everybody's trying to find the next Sean McVay. I mean, you look at the Jets getting Adam Gase. You look at the Cardinals getting Cliff Kingsbury, which completely surprised me because at first, Cliff Kingsbury committed to USC to be their offensive coordinator, which I feel like he would do better. And it's just, you look at his production at Texas Tech, and I think the main reason why they got him into Arizona is to help develop Josh Rosen. And Coach Kingsbury, he's spoken highly of Josh Rosen, and he seems like he's very excited to work with him. So it seems that, you know, people trying to find the next McVay. But, I mean, look at McVay. He inherited a young team. You know, team of young guys, you know, Jared Goff and Todd Gurley, Cooper Kupp. So he had a lot of playmakers. With Coach Kingsbury, he's going to take his fair share of beatings. I mean, he still has to be able to build it. I mean, it's one thing to find a coach for Josh Rosen. I mean, it's obvious that the Cardinals are invested into having Josh Rosen be the future of their franchise. I mean, he's young. He's about to go into his second season. He still has a lot of developing to do. And I understand bringing in a head coach to help him develop, but you got to bring in players around him. That's why the draft is so important. They have to play their cards right in the draft in order to build a team around him.
Mm. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, just got distracted. I can't think where I was going.
Sorry about that.
But, gosh, I just completely. I guess you just answered what you thought about the new coaching hires, because I was gonna actually say, they are looking for the new Sean McVay. A lot of coaching hires that are just kind of a little bit of a head scratcher. Like, these guys have zero head coaching experience outside, I want to say, Kingsbury. And then you had Adam Gase,
who just got fired from Miami. Now he's a head coach for the New York Jets.
Who looked like he was like jacked up on something yesterday.
Yeah, his eyes were just piercing. Like, did this dude snort a line like his offensive line coach earlier this season? I'm not making a speculation, but I feel the coaching hire that was the biggest head scratcher for me was the Cleveland Browns. They hired their offensive coordinator. They promoted him to head coach, in which that I had to scratch my head on it, because not only did they promote Freddie Kitchens, but they also let go of Greg Williams. Like, first off, it's the Browns. Here's my thing. You look at what Greg Williams did. After y'all fired Hugh Jackson, y'all fired Todd Haley, you promoted your defensive coordinator to interim head coach. You saw what he did with Baker Mayfield. You saw what he did with that offense with David Njoku and Jarvis Landry and Nick Chubb. And you saw how that defense was able to play. You saw what the Browns was bringing to the table under the leadership of Greg Williams. And you just promote somebody else to head coach. And then you don't even retain Greg Williams. Greg Williams should be a head coach of a team right now. He should be a head coach, considering the turnaround that he brought to that Cleveland franchise. And say the Cleveland Browns, they end up winning a division title. They end up winning a conference title. I mean, that would be a Twilight Zone right there. I'm not going to give Freddie Kitchens credit. I'm going to give credit to Greg Williams, because he's the one that spearheaded a revolution in Cleveland for the Browns. Mm-hmm. Why would you go ahead and promote somebody else? You basically promoting somebody else for the work that Greg Williams was doing. Like, that's something that kind of burns me up. Yeah, I know Greg Williams, he has a dark past with the Bounty Gate and all that, but that's behind him. Greg Williams did an outstanding job coaching the Cleveland Browns this past season. Considering the adversity that he went through, having a rookie at quarterback, having such a young offense, a young defense led by Jabril Peppers and Myles Garrett and Devin Ward, a defense that played masterful, that was good at making stops, getting off the field and 3 and outs. An offense that moved the ball like poetry in motion with Baker Mayfield out there, with Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Nick Chubb. And I know I'm ranting right now. So you basically promote somebody else for the job that a guy you appoint as interim head coach.
Yeah.
And then you let him go. But then I had to go back and think, oh, yes, because they're the Cleveland Browns. It's like what Tennessee did with Mike Mularkey.
Yeah, I did not understand that move at all.
He leads you to 10-6, a playoff victory at Arrowhead, and you fire him.
And they did, I would say, worse, because they missed the playoffs this year.
I mean, with Mike Vrabel, I think that team is a work in progress. And just think of it, there's going to be a lot of player moves going on this season. We'll take a look maybe at Pittsburgh. I wouldn't be surprised if Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown may not be in Pittsburgh next season.
No question. I have no doubt they're going to end up moving both of those players. I was just about to ask, what do you think about the situation of Pittsburgh and the chaos that has become?
Also, let's not bank on Blake Bortles being in Jacksonville next season. Let's also bank on Nick Foles being a full-time starter for a team next season. And if you're looking for a landing spot for Nick Foles, how about sending him to Jacksonville?
Well, just think about this. It's like not just that, but also Joe Flacco is going to be on his way out of Baltimore, and
I mean
Tannehill,
that might be it for him. Tannehill might be on his way out of Miami.
yeah, Tannehill might be on his way out of Miami. We can assume Blake Bortles is probably done in Jacksonville, like you said.
Yeah.
Nick Foles, man, he needs to move on.
He definitely does. I mean, he has that starter mentality. I mean, if you see the magic, he has that starter caliber. So, I mean, we're going to see in the draft because Will Greer's in the draft from West Virginia, Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State in the draft, and now Kyler Murray. So let's just see. I mean, the teams that I'm going to be looking at as far as the quarterbacks are concerned will be the Miami Dolphins, Jacksonville Jaguars, New York Giants as well, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to.
Here's the thing about Kyle Murray, though. It just seems like it's about to blow up into a lot of unnecessary drama between
the NFL and the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, here's my thing about him. He's a very talented guy. There is no doubt he is the best player in the country. He's the best athlete in the country.
He's signed for $4 million. He's already under contract with Athletics.
And he was a first-round pick. And just to let you know,
nice overall.
Do you know how hard it is to be a first-round pick? I mean, it's hard to get drafted in any professional league, but to be a first-round pick in Major League Baseball, do you know what type of special breed you have to be? I mean, just look at Alex Bregman. He was drafted like second, third overall by the Houston Astros. Look at Kyle Murray. He's drafted 9th overall by the Oakland Athletics. Dude is a two-sport athlete for Oklahoma. Played football and basketball. No, football and baseball. Heisman Trophy winner, football. First-round draft pick, baseball. He wants to declare for the NFL draft when he's already about to start making millions. My thing is with Kyle Murray, he's very talented, but I feel that he should stick with baseball due to the simple fact if he wants to make more money, and if he wants to achieve career longevity, because that's where you find longevity. You see guys in baseball playing for 20-plus years. Mm-hmm. In football, you looking at a good, 15 years to the most. I don't see him surviving at quarterback. Being 5'10", granted,
they say Drew Brees is too small.
But I feel that Kyle Murray's saving grace will be his mobility and his speed. But it gets faster. The speed of the game gets a lot faster in football. Johnny Manziel, he was pretty fast at Texas A&M, and he was just burning defenders. But he learned quickly when he got into the NFL. His first start against the Bengals, the tackles he missed when he was at Texas A&M, he wasn't able to shake off those tackles in the pros. No. You're looking at grown men who are paid to try and kill you, basically. That's what the NFL is, a bunch of grown men who are paid to wreak havoc and punishment upon you. And, yeah, you may be 5'10", you may be small and everything, and you may be a rookie, but you're going against grown men who their livelihood is to kill you. That's basically it. And, honestly, if I'm a guy like Danny Trevathan, or if I'm a guy like Khalil Mack or Clay Matthews or DeMario Davis, and I see a 5'10" quarterback, and I know I can catch him, I know I can knock his head off, if I'm getting paid $20-30 million a year to do it, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So, Kyler Murray, you might as well go ahead, put the helmet down. Now, I may be wrong. What if Kyler Murray does run the tables, and what if he does go out there and actually produce and actually becomes a good NFL quarterback?
Yeah, I know.
Anything can happen. I'm not going to doubt anybody. Does Kyler Murray have the potential and the talent to do it? Yes, he does. But do I feel like he should stick to baseball because it's a better business decision? He'll be at lower risk of injury because injury has been something that has ended careers, no doubt about it. You're at lower risk of concussion. You are at higher chance to make more money, and you can last a lot longer.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's just 5'10", man.
5'10". Russell Wilson is short too. That's Kyler Murray.
He ain't no 5'10" short.
He's like 5'11", 6 foot.
I would say with cleats, he's 6 feet.
Same with Drew Brees. With cleats, he's 6 foot. Kyler Murray with cleats, he's 5'10". He's real short.
Yeah.
See, with him, the way he played, being short, that may have flown in the Big 12. But if you would put him in the SEC, he might be able to fly past a few teams. But against an LSU or an Alabama, no.
Well, I mean, that just goes. I mean, the game against Alabama that they had just showed that it was, a different league.
I mean, like if you're a quarterback, if you want to know how good you are before you get to the pros, play against Alabama.
The fact that they were able to jump out in front 28-0.
The fact that Oklahoma was able to put up 34 points was nothing short of a miracle. Considering the type of defense that Alabama has, and their defensive tackle Quentin Williams, he is a top 5 prospect, and I see him doing damage when he gets to the league.
Mm-hmm. However, I do have to say that title game did kind of put a damper on Alabama's season.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching a video, and it was a guy. He had an Alabama jersey. He was all bandaged up, like he had like a broken leg. His whole body was all bandaged up. And a nurse came in and was like, "Hey, we got a visitor for you." So you see guys in LSU jersey, you see a guy in Tennessee jersey, you see a guy in a Auburn jersey, and they just all making fun of the guy. I mean, it was funny. You gotta go on Facebook and watch it. Also, look up Jermaine Funny Main Johnson, dude, because he does how Bama fans watch certain games.
I've seen him.
Have you seen the one he did about how Bama fans watch the national championship?
No, I did not.
You should watch it. Like, here's how it goes. I know I know we're kind of over time, but I just have to describe this video. So basically, he's going over the highlights and just basically how Bama fans usually will watch the game. And he was like, "Damn, that's how it feels getting whooped." Well, time to make a few phone calls. Hey, yeah, you remember how you been and everything? Yeah, I remember how we whooped you and everything. Yeah, we got whooped pretty bad, and it was funny. You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I think that pretty much does it for this episode. We got next week is conference championships, and then Pro Bowl and the Super Bowl,
Season's coming down to an end.
Which we will be officially live for a pregame show for the Super Bowl.
Yes.
We will be doing that. And then we'll just kind of be on cruise control as far as Let's Talk Football goes after that. And we'll be turning our focus, back to basketball and preparing for the upcoming collegiate baseball season, which I personally am rather excited about. So, a lot planned for that. A lot.
Yes.
Oh, anyway, follow us on Twitter at AI Sports 3. Catch us on Facebook. Visit our website. Watch us on YouTube. I'm your host, John Behrens.
And I'm Joshua Perkins.
This has been Let's Talk Football. We thank you for listening, tuning in, watching, whatever you're doing to catch this awesome show.
Signing out.
Let's Talk Football!